New hope for those seeking a COVID vaccine, the latest on Tiger Woods' condition after a serious car crash, plus the stimulus bill takes another step. Find out if we're closer to seeing those $1,400 checks. This is OU Nightly. Thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Will Blessing.
And I'm Mckenzie Gladney. We begin tonight with a new shot in the arm for COVID vaccines.
The FDA says we are even closer to having a third COVID-19 vaccination available, and the best part, this shot only requires one dose. Johnson & Johnson's one-dose vaccine is expected to be authorized on Friday. 3 to 4 million doses of the vaccine should be available next week. A major vaccine pod in Norman vaccinated over 10,000 Oklahomans on Monday, and the organizing company, Emmy Labs, says it is thrilled about the news.
And so imagine trying to reach hard-to-reach populations where it'd be challenging to see the patient 2 times. Think homeless, think transient prison populations, think harder-to-reach folks. That this is ideal first case for those type settings.
The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a little less effective than the Moderna and Pfizer, but again, only requires one dose.
Goddard Health Services is getting help from OU nursing students administering the COVID-19 vaccine. Students are required to volunteer 12 hours to giving out vaccines and are helping at places like the Goddard Health Center and Oklahoma Children's Hospital. This past fall, the students helped in giving out nose swab testings and are now doing the vaccinations. This allows students to get experience with patients as their classes moved virtual.
Yes, it's really important that we exercise our skills, because without that, it would be very difficult just to put us out in the real world. And since COVID did impact a lot of our clinical hours and our hands-on experience, doing the COVID vaccines are a really great way for us not only to help out with the community, but also to gain clinical experience and practice our skills.
Nursing students are also advised to receive the vaccination in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
As more people are vaccinated in Oklahoma, fewer cases of COVID-19 are reported. Today, we know there are almost 800 new cases in the state. That brings the total number of active cases to more than 13,000. 37 new deaths have also been reported, adding to the over 4,000 total deaths in Oklahoma. Over 400,000 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in the state since the beginning of the pandemic.
The economic impact of the coronavirus is still bringing homelessness. Homelessness has increased since the beginning of the pandemic, and shelters are filling up. Haley Weger joins us with more on the Norman shelter.
One homeless shelter in Norman has welcomed hundreds of homeless Oklahomans in, but has always had the fear that COVID-19 may come in as well.
Within the homeless community, it's really a challenge because they live in a communal environment, inside and outside. So it's always been our greatest concern that the second COVID finds its way into our community, that it would spread really quickly.
Nonetheless, Norman Food and Shelter has continued their mission of feeding and housing the homeless during the pandemic.
I tell people that we at Food and Shelter do 2 things really well. We feed people who are hungry, and we take in those who are lost and homeless and help them find their way back home.
Norman Food and Shelter serves over 200,000 meals a year out of their dining room alone. The shelter also offers different types of housing depending on a person's situation. The shelter also has a tiny home village full of homes just like this, where individuals and families can come and work with a case manager.
The shelter is open to serve hot meals 5 days a week and has additional housing available to anybody affected by the pandemic. And the grand jury has finally come to a decision on the death of Daniel Prude, and many are unhappy with the verdict. Katie Arata has that story and the rest of today's headlines from around the world. Katie?
Nearly a year after the death of Daniel Prude, a grand jury has voted to not indict any of the 7 officers involved in his death. Last March, Rochester police officers responded to a call saying Prude was having a psychotic episode. They handcuffed him, placed a mesh hood over his head, and held him down until he became unresponsive. Last night, hundreds gathered in the exact spot that Prude had encountered the police. They marched through Rochester, New York, calling out for a change. The protests stayed peaceful with no violence, arrests, or injuries. And that, unfortunately, is not the case in Ecuador, as military security operations are underway at 2 prisons after simultaneous riots at 3 different facilities. The riots were in 3 different provinces and were triggered by a turf war between 2 different criminal groups. The 2 groups were fighting to gain criminal leadership within the detention centers. At least 67 inmates were pronounced dead. The Ecuadorian military service has been deployed to the prisons. And the Biden administration is making moves to clear a tent camp near the U.S.-Mexico border. The Department of Homeland Security says it is beginning to admit migrants living in the camp in Matamoros, Mexico. Many were subject to a Trump policy requiring them to stay in Mexico while awaiting their immigration court date in the U.S. The Department of Homeland Security says health and safety protocols are in place, but new arrivals to the camp will not be allowed into the country through this process. And so far, hundreds of migrants have been admitted into the U.S. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Katie. Now, it's hard to believe that last week we had snow and ice keeping us indoors for several days.
Yep, and I think that is exactly the definition of Oklahoma weather, because this week it is so beautiful, I can't describe it, but Jack Maney can, and he's joining us with a live look at the weather. How does it feel out there, Jack?
Thanks, guys. As you can see outside, right now outside, it's beautiful and sunny, but those winds are a little bit elevated. We had a cold front roll through this morning, and that's dropped our temperatures down. If it wasn't for that cold front, we would still be sunny and 75 like we were yesterday. But that cold front's going to continue to influence our weather for the next couple of days, and it's going to bring with it tomorrow our first chance of rain. The showers and thunderstorms look like they're going to be building in tomorrow, and we'll have a whole lot more details about that coming up later in the show. There's also a warm-up coming up this weekend. We'll tell you exactly how high those temperatures will go and when our next front will arrive to squash our hopes and dreams coming up next week. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Jack. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic canceling all campus activities, forcing everything to be done remotely, Camp Crimson is focused on a new plan to still give incoming freshmen an experience they will never forget. OU administration is certain that things will change for the better as plans are in motion to host Camp Crimson in person this summer. In order to do this, safety is a priority.
One of the other things that we're looking at is for our small groups is to have them based on where students are living, so they're interacting with students who they're going to be interacting with regardless. So looking at the people on the same floor or in the same building.
Camp Crimson will look different from past years, but hopes are that the experience will be the same.
Lawmakers are inching closer toward approving a 3rd round of stimulus checks.
When Congress will pass it, stay with us when we come back.
Plus, unemployment is a growing issue, but some communities are impacted more than others. More details after the break.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. Politicians continue to discuss the pandemic relief bill. Grace Whitten has that and other economic updates. Grace?
Thanks, Will. As of today, President Joe Biden's updated stimulus bill is being considered by a Senate committee. If passed, the bill would provide qualifying citizens with a direct payment of $1,400, an extension of several unemployment programs, and $400 a week for jobless benefits. While House Democrats are hoping to have the bill on Biden's desk before March 14th, Republicans are still trying to negotiate the cost of the bill. The House will vote on this Friday. Speaking of unemployment, the Federal Reserve Chairman said today that jobless data doesn't accurately portray how the pandemic is affecting minorities. The national average for unemployment rate is 6.3%, but it's significantly higher for Black and Hispanic workers than for whites. Also, the rate doesn't include women who had to leave their jobs to care for their families.
The economic downturn has not fallen equally on all Americans, and those least able to shoulder the burden has been hardest hit. In particular, the high level of joblessness has been especially severe for lower wage workers and for African Americans, Hispanics, and other minority groups.
The chairman also states he won't raise interest rates. And the pandemic has been hard on many of our wallets, so it is more important than ever to learn how to save well and spend less. A few tips from finance coach Rachel Richards is to track your expenses in a spreadsheet, set aside cash for emergencies, and grow your investments, either with an automated stock market investment app or with an expert. And another way to save your money is to not miss deadlines. So if you haven't paid for your spring semester here at OU, now is the time. Students have until tomorrow to pay without service charges. Well, Mckenzie, back to you.
Thanks, Grace. Now, this entrepreneur is encouraging people to ditch beef for plant-based alternatives.
How he's trying to save the world after the break.
And Mckenzie and Will, it's such a beautiful day outside. I have some more about how long we will see this warm weather and when our next rain chances will be in the area after the break. Welcome back to OU Nightly. Taking a look at our live cam, it's absolutely beautiful outside. Devon Energy is just sparkling in that sunlight. 58 degrees, dew points are low. It's dry, warm, and that's reflected on our radar right now. Currently, no rain, very few clouds, but with the cold front that came through, maximum wind gusts gusted up to 40 miles per hour in Lawton, in 25 in Oklahoma City and Norman. But we do have another weather maker on the way. Looking at these upper level winds at the 500 millibar range, a new trough will be digging in the southwestern part of the U.S. That will move into Oklahoma, and that will create a cutoff low. That little circle you see right there, that is our low that will make some rain. So let's look at the timing of this rain. Looking right now, 4 p.m. on Friday, very clear. But then as we go into Saturday, we do have some rain on the radar for the eastern part of the Oklahoma State. Looking into the rest of the weekend, we do have some spotty showers across the southeastern portion of the state. And then on Monday at 5 p.m., most of that will be concentrated in the southern part of the state, including Norman and Oklahoma City. But tomorrow we do have a chance for rain. Don't worry about that too much. It just will be a rain shower or two. 48 degrees for Thursday. We'll slightly warm up to 51 on Friday. Saturday is absolutely beautiful, 63 degrees, sunshine. And then our next chance for rain, like I said, will be Sunday and Monday with highs in the 50s. Back to you at the desk.
Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has made a call to action saying rich nations need to shift to plant-based meat. This call comes quickly after the release of his new book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. Gates writes about how if prosperous countries switch to synthetic meat, the world could get to zero greenhouse gas emissions in time to avoid a climate catastrophe. This issue lies with how this will affect small businesses such as Artesian Pride Quality Meat Market on Lindsay Street.
I don't think it'll be successful yet. I don't think consumers are ready for that. Not for a while. It would take a lot of motivating in that direction.
Gates has already contributed to startups like Impossible Foods, Beyond Meat, and Memphis Meats.
And with the spring semester comes a lot of spring sports. Carly, what sports should we be watching tonight?
Well, guys, tonight, Oklahoma women's basketball takes on TCU in Fort Worth. Amaya Ward has coming up. Welcome back to OU Nightly. Let's get started with the condition of Tiger Woods. Tiger's in the hospital and recovering after finishing up surgery late last night. He was injured in a one-car crash outside LA yesterday. He underwent a procedure on his legs because of comminuted open fractures on the upper and lower portions of his tibia and fibula. Tiger posted on Instagram after his surgery stating that there's damage on his ankle bones and trauma to the muscle. Women's basketball takes on the Horned Frogs in Fort Worth tonight. OU Nightly's Amaya Ward has more.
The last time the Sooners traveled to the home of the Horned Frogs, they were sent home in defeat after losing 96-71. This will be the first time the two teams meet this season after the first game in January was postponed due to COVID-19 issues. Guard Taylor Robinson led the Sooners with 18 points, while TCU guard Lauren Hurd led the Horned Frogs, putting up 23 points against the Sooners. The game will definitely be one to watch, with both teams holding an 8-10 record. The Sooners suit up in Manhattan tonight at 6:30 and plan to bounce back after being defeated by Baylor.
Thanks, Amaya. Men's basketball fell short last night against Kansas State. Austin Reeves was outstanding, shooting 50% from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line, but could not get enough help from the rest of the Sooners. Harmon is the only other player who hit double digits. Let's take a look at what head coach Lon Kruger took away from the game.
You know, we didn't finish it, but yeah, they've had a year where they've taken care of business and made progress, and unfortunately, you know, it might take this to get our attention and make us, sit up and do things better.
Oklahoma baseball lost to Stephen F. Austin 9-5 last night. The Sooners had a hot start, leading 5-3 after 5 innings. Designated hitter Jimmy Crooks hit a 3-run blast to right field. A 6-run explosion by the Rubberjacks was filled by 4 walks and 2 errors by the Sooners. The Sooners play UTA at 7:30. The OKC Thunder face the San Antonio Spurs tonight for their first game back since postponement due to COVID protocols. The Spurs will be shorthanded, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the boys dropped 4 of their last 5 games, the latest being to the Miami Heat. The Thunder have the home court advantage for the 7 o'clock tip-off. The NBA announces the 14 All-Star Game reserves selected by NBA coaches. Taking a look at the East, James Harden makes his 9th consecutive All-Star Game and is being followed by 3 newbies, that being Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown, and Julius Randle. Out west, Chris Paul joins KD for his 11th year in the big game, while Zion gets a shot at his first ever appearance. The team captains make their team selections March 4th, 3 days before tip-off in Atlanta on the 7th. And for his first NBA All-Star appearance, Chicago Bulls player Zach LaVine receives a different type of congrats.
Michael, go ahead.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah, this is.
Hey, man, who put my parents on here, man? Come on, man. Who else is on this thing?
Hey.
Oh, gosh. So what kind of meeting is this and interview is this, man?
That's all from sports. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Carly. Now, while last week's snow flipped some lives upside down, for others, it brought joy.
After the break, we'll tell you about a man whose dream finally came true thanks to the snow.
I'm Romelo Woodfork at the OU Nightly Update Desk. Texas federal judge Drew Tipton permanently banned the Biden administration's 100-day moratorium on deportations Tuesday. The moratorium was a part of President Biden's January executive orders that instructed ICE not to deport undocumented immigrants for 100 days. The merits of the case remain pending, unless another Texas Southern District judge or higher rules otherwise.
Thanks, Romelo. Now, while last week's snow is almost completely gone, some people may be missing it more than others.
With the snow came the chance for the 79-year-old man to make a snow angel for the very first time. The man, a native Californian, now lives in Oklahoma and has never seen this amount of snow. Caretakers from his assisted living facility helped make this frosty first a reality.
Now, that is adorable video.
Yes.
I'm so glad that he got to do that, especially since that was just such a record amount of snow.
Right, coming from California.
Exactly,
right,
coming from California, coming to Oklahoma where there really isn't a whole lot of snow to begin with, but I'm glad he got to do that. But it doesn't look like he's going to get to do it again.
Unfortunately
Taylor?
not.
No, I mean, we had that cold front just moved through, and actually with Oklahoma this year, we had a record amount of snowfall. We're very close to that, around 21 inches of snow. So, I mean, it's hit or miss here in Oklahoma, but right now we had a cold front move through. That didn't bring any snow, but it brought some winds, 40 miles per hour in Lawton, 25 in Norman. And then we do have our next chance for a weather maker. Again, that upper level winds, it's going to show this trough digging into California where that man is at. And that's going to create our next system with that cutoff low that's right around here in Oklahoma. That's going to produce some rain coming soon this weekend. So let's look at the future radar. So right now, and it's clear, so it's Friday, and then we hit Saturday, and that's when we start seeing some rain. Some McAllister, Ardmore, Miami, Tulsa, Muskogee are all going to get hit by that rain. And then we have another round coming on Sunday. and then another round coming on on Monday, excuse me. And so we have Ardmore, Lawton, Norman, all in those areas to be hit. But again, a nice, beautiful day for tomorrow and for the rest of your weekend. Back to you.
Thank you, Taylor. Now, thank you for watching OU Nightly, brought to you by the Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication.
We'll see you again right here tomorrow, same time and the same place. Good night.